We're questioning whether the worst is behind us for the coronavirus crisis, but what does this mean for commodities, in particular commodity prices? Because we did see gold somewhat unwind some of its safe haven status play last week. We've got Peter McGuire from XM joining us now in the studio. Peter, pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Ingrid.
Let's start with gold, although oil probably is the big story, so maybe we should start with that. We'll get to gold in a moment. Oil prices plunging, continuing to plunge.
In Asian trade this morning, down 5%.
What a shocker.
It is a shocker. 17, I think it's about 17.30. I think it'll be on the 16 handle sometime today.
And this is post-OPEC meeting, so we've sort of seen what we can in terms of what can be done.
The front month is closing, so that's another reason why you've seen it, spank down. But it just gives, I think, some sort of indication to the globe as far as that demand destruction. We can't get away from that number, which is very, very frightening from a production side. So, you were thinking you were doing 100 million barrels, everything's going well. Now you're probably at about that 80 to 70 million and falling. You're talking about airlines being crunched, you name it. There's just no transportation, and the fuel side of it, it's tough being a producer. Great for a consumer.
Right, but it's a double hit, as you say, because we've got oversupply of oil.
Absolutely.
And we've got a lack of demand.
You bet.
When does either change?
Well, I think you're probably, as far as production side, you've always got that. So, there's plenty of oil out there, the world's awash with it. As far as the consumption, I think that's going to be third quarter, fourth quarter. Depends on how quick it ticks up. You know as well as I do, Sydney is, I'm at Coogee and they opened the beaches this morning. You've got people swimming in the beaches. So you're starting to see a little bit of a change of sentiment. How long it takes to actually grind back up and get people driving again and doing all of those behavioural things, no one knows. There's not one analyst anywhere or an economist in the world that would have a clue, can put it down to a date.
Yeah, exactly. Or a region. Right?
Yep, or a region, and then you talk about those numbers coming out of Japan. They're very frightening. Think about Singapore. So you've got very closed-in environments as far as the way people live. Tokyo, for example, about 35 million people.
And they haven't even had lockdowns in place.
Exactly right. So what impact that has to second or third largest economy in the world? If you believe the numbers as far as China, it's damning.
But this is what I mean. Yes, China's GDP a shocker, as we very much would have expected. But what do you expect in terms of China demand? How does China sit on the demand curve for oil?
If you can believe the numbers, I think it's going to be pretty frightening. And you're thinking about what the consumption is. I think it's going to take many months for China to get back up. But did it hit other cities? Has it been across the whole, all those major big cities? Shanghai experienced it. We just don't hear the news like that.
Yeah,
it seems very strange to me. You've got a virus that has been attacked, and you've got devastating numbers coming out of New York. You're thinking Tokyo, you're thinking Spain, and then what about China itself?
In terms of storage space for oil, we've had a lot of talk, mainly because Donald Trump.
They're everywhere. But you're putting on boats, they're putting on ships, I should say. You name it, they're storing it because it's cheap.
So is it mythical, though, that we can run out of storage space for oil?
Yeah, there is. That's the trouble there, because you keep on producing and then it gets to a point you can't put it. So they used to say put it in your bathtub.
Do you think that would happen?
I think you're probably not far from it.
Really?
Yeah, so that's the reality, probably by end of month or maybe the end of May, depending on the quick turnaround, Ingrid. And if you don't see a quick turnaround, if this drags on, summer driving season traditionally 1st of May. I was reading only yesterday morning something that could turn the market. Again, it's bad news. You've got warm temperatures as far as oceans. So that could create some seasonality aspects as far as hurricanes. Really could impact, could be a very severe season. So take that on board to the Gulf of Mexico and so on. That could be a little bit of in a bad way, a saving grace.
Okay, so in terms of, sentiment here at home, what are you watching in terms of gold? Because you've got Aussie dollar gold, you've got the Aussie dollar doing certain things. You've got gold, which has sort of had a bit of a turnaround in the last few sessions, at least, with this risk on, which you'd imagine an unwinding of some of those trades when you do see things perhaps turn a corner.
Sure.
What does this mean for gold, and in particular Aussie dollar gold?
Well, Aussie dollar gold, it's been a great trade. It's been fantastic. But the reality of the matter is, do we see that spike even further? I think you probably will when bad news becomes more evident as each week wears on, with non-farm payrolls out within, less than 2 weeks. All of those impacts the PMIs and so on. Gold came off the other day and Dow was up 3%.
Yeah.
So it was a great night over on Friday night. There was strong, UK was strong. Let's see if that can roll into this week.
Yeah.
There have many traders be saying, look, it's just going to whipsaw again and just as easy be down 5% by tomorrow.
So in terms of commodities then, I mean, do you see a good trade in gold at the moment, or?
I think there's been a lot of push to the upside. Probably from a speculation standpoint, it's probably got more upside for Aussie gold. US gold, yeah, sure. That US dollar index has been pretty range bound, 101 to 98, back at 99 at the moment, so nearly just at 100.
Where do you expect that to head?
Probably a little bit further north.
Okay.
But let's just see what happens as far as the Dow. Let's see what happens as far as the big trades on S&P.
Yeah.
If that momentum can stay with us, then there could be a little bit of a softening aspect to the US dollar, but I don't necessarily think it will.
Yeah.
I think PMIs, all of that news is really going to start to come through this week and next week.
Yeah.
And in 2 weeks' time, it's going to be a very different market with those sort of numbers, 22 million unemployed.
Oh, yeah.
God almighty,
And,
what impact that's going to have.
I mean, it's unfathomable. And also, I mean, in terms of earnings season in the US kicking
bet.
off, we could see some impacts from some of the guidance or at least management commentary around how their business is actually being hit by this. Peter McGuire, we'll leave it there with you. Appreciate your time. Thanks for coming in.
Thank
from
you, Ingrid.
XM there.